day for a movie studio tour. I feel like you're all doing the right thing. Begins traditionally with an introduction from a special guest host. And that guest host is from The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, which makes him Jimmy Fallon. And here he is. Jimmy, talk to the people. Jimmy? Do as I say. You made it. On the tour, and be prepared. Tour features loud noises, sudden tram movements, fire effects, water effects. You want to have your cameras up and keep a tight hold and watch out they don't get wet. For your safety, and well, let's look at Super Nintendo World over there on the right real quick before I go on. It's really coming along. That thing's going to be open in 2023, so that's exciting. They already opened it in Universal Japan, so if you want to check out a sneak preview of it, check out some YouTube videos from there. Don't use selfie sticks on the tour, that's the other safety thing. And just be kind to each other, and we're all going to get out of this thing all right today. So that's all the safety stuff. Pictures from the opening day. There they are. And that man right there with the hat in the air, that's Carl Laemmle, the founder of Universal Studios. They called him Uncle Carl, both because of his kind and generous nature, but also because most of his family worked here, and he was several people's uncle. This was very much a family business in the early days, and today it's the oldest working movie studio in the world. On the left side is the oldest and largest of our sound stages. That's Stage 12, built in 1929. So many things have filmed inside of there over the decades, and on your screens you can see a few examples. Frankenstein's Lab was there. Dracula's Castle was in that one. Let's take it to the 80s. Scarface is mentioned. Old Doc Brown on the clock tower, Welcome Center from Jurassic Park. Some Grinch action in there. And sometimes the outdoors can be created inside of the stages too. And that's what they look like when they're empty. And they're very rarely empty. We've got 28 of these stages in the studio, and they're almost always busy with production, except right now. These ones on your left side just emptied out because they finished filming the first season of a new show called Bel-Air. That's a fresh take on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air from the 1990s with Jabari Banks in the starring role. You can see the whole first season on NBC streaming service Peacock, but that's what they were working on in there. Same thing with this next set of stages. These next three were being used for a show called Hacks. It's on HBO Max. It stars Gene Smart as a Las Vegas comedian. They just finished the second season of that in there, so they just cleared out. So what's going to be next? Hard to say, but they never stay empty for very long. Before Hacks was in there, it was a whole high school for Saved by the Bell. And right before that, it was a department store for several years in there for the Comedy Superstore. That ran for quite a few seasons, but that's what used to call these stages home. So there's things coming and going out of them all the time. And it's not just TV shows and movies here anymore. We do talk shows. Kelly Clarkson does her talk show here. They do competition shows like The Voice and American Ninja Warrior. And they just started a brand new one called the American Song Contest. That's hosted by Snoop Dogg and Kelly Clarkson. It's live every Monday. It's kind of America's version of Eurovision. They're looking for the next great American songwriter in that one. I think they're rehearsing that today, in fact. Comes out here sometimes from Warner Brothers, from Paramount, from Fox. All the major studios share the resources. Of course, Universal Productions get priority, but anybody's money is good here. Their sound stages are full. They'll rent out a stage here and make their shows here. So everybody shares now. One of the major networks is part of Universal Studios even. NBC has been part of Universal since 2004, so we do make a lot of NBC shows here as well. You're going to see a poster for one of those coming up here on the right side on stage 44. This is where they make a show called Mr. Mayor. It stars Ted Danson as the mayor of Los Angeles and Holly Hunter as its co-star. There's a poster for it there on the right. So Ted Danson works on the right side, and Ted the Bear drinks over here on the left side. There he is, raising a really filthy martini to all of you. Wishing you a happy Sunday. Thank you, Ted. He's getting his own television show, too. There will be a Ted the Bear show in our lifetimes. Now, the Bud Westmore building is on the right side. Bud Westmore was a famous makeup artist. And that building over there, they named after him. That's where they build everything the productions need here. If it's made out of wood, metal, fiberglass, or plastic, they can make it in that building on the right. Now on the left side, you got the production bungalows. First one here is for $7 Productions. That's Dwayne Johnson's production company. NBC ABC makes the show The Young Rock, so they'll probably have an office there as long as that show runs. The bungalows were built in the 1940s to be dressing rooms for actors. But today, these are home to some of the biggest production companies in Hollywood. You got Martin Platt back there, Elizabeth Banks Brownstone Productions here, the De Laurentiis production company at the end. This is where the work takes place before the filming ever begins. Now, next up, there's a couple more sound stages coming up on your left here. Most of the stages we passed today were built in the late 1920s and early 1930s, right after sound became a thing in the movies. But these are only about 5 years old, so they're a lot more modern. They called these things the Will and Grace sound stages when they first built them. They used to film the comedy Will and Grace here, but it had its final season, so the show that calls these stages home now. You'll see a poster for it on the left side of the building as we make this turn. Currently, it's a sitcom called Keenan, starring Kenan Thompson from Saturday Night Live and Don Johnson. Brings us into the backlot of Universal Studios. And the backlot is where we've got all these large outdoor environments. The first one you're going to see over here to your right. These are the big city settings here at Universal, the metro sets. And you got a mix of architecture, old classic styles mixed with modern glass and steel, alleyways. And the part of it you're about to see here is the residential portion of the backlot known as Brownstone Street over there on your right. I'll play you a clip of some people that have lived in those brownstones over the years so you can see how they live on screen. The history of them goes back to the 1940s. The comedy duo of Abbott and Costello had a brownstone in there way back then. Those were Universal's biggest stars in those days. Next up, we're going to be entering Courthouse Square. This is the small town part of the backlot that we're riding into next. It's kind of a treat to come back here. It's usually busy with filming most of the time, but they're in between shows back here right now too, so we get to take a look at it. Probably what I find most exciting about this area is that they used this for the big 1980s hits, Back to the Future and Back to the Future 2. This was Hill Valley for both of those movies. A television show called The Ghost Whisperer for a while. They used this as the small town for that. If you walk into the front of the courthouse, there's just the front of another courthouse in there. It goes back to the 1960s. The first episode of The Twilight Zone was filmed here. So these are really only made to look good on camera from the outside. Sometimes because you don't have to get permits to shut down real city streets and businesses and have security out there and spend the day relying on whatever the weather's like that day outside too. On the day you pick the film in the real world. People still do it. Like you're seeing the same small town over and over again all the time, even though you probably have many times over the years. All right, we're hitting New York Street. And there's traffic. That seems natural. This street was inspired by New York City, and sometimes it gets to be New York City. Shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine used to film out here and use it as New York. There were some scenes in Captain America, the first Avenger, that used this street as New York City. But it's also been just about every other city you can imagine. There's Paris, France, for Billie Eilish performance for Amazon recently. So just tons of music videos, commercials, and TV shows over the years.
I like films that just take you away from your real life and sweep you up in adventure. Kong literally does that. I mean, you're on board the ship, you're sailing to a lost island, you're encountering monsters and creatures from, prehistoric times. So I was thrilled when Universal invited me back to Skull Island. Now, we have created this 3D immersive experience, so you're going to have your glasses ready. Don't put them on yet, just put them in your hand because we're about to return to Skull Island.
We're returning to Skull Island.
That is correct, everybody. We are about to return to Skull Island. And if you've never done this before, this is definitely one of the thrill ride parts of art. Kong.
I was not expecting it that wet.
I got butter there.
I got
in
butter.
Jurassic Park.
What did you
Well,
I was okay.
I mean, King Kong did all the work, but we were there.
get it all in front?
And I know it can be. Is everybody okay up there? Did you guys do good? Okay, good. Some of you got a little dinosaur saliva on you, but I'm told that's harmless. It should dry in a couple days. It'll be fine. Car 2 looks. Yeah, you guys look fresher than you did when you went in there. I don't know how you do it. Well-made action scene. Everywhere you look, part of the story is unfolding. It's a unique way to watch a movie as an audience, and a unique way for a director to work too. Or is the only place you can see that, so it's always fun to get in there and check it out. Speaking of the tour, before King Kong existed, that's what we used to do over there on the right side. The tram would ride onto that bridge over there, and it would shake around like it was going to fall over, and then we would all get on with our lives. That was the collapsing bridge. And that train used to be the runaway train. It would look like it was about to hit us, and then it wouldn't. This tour's been running since 1964, so many things have come and gone over the decades, but that's a little piece of tour history for you. So sometimes picture cars are like background actors. They're just there to make the world feel real. Sometimes they use them for stunts, and sometimes the cars are the stars. And here to your left side, you'll see a whole lineup of picture cars used here over the years. One is from the 2008 remake of Knight Rider. The kit car was definitely one of the stars of the show. Then you got Magnum's Ferrari and Biff's convertible from Back to the Future. They call those hero cars because the main actors drove them in those productions. These Flintstone cars didn't even exist till they created them in the Bud Westmore building you saw earlier on the tour. And they just added this Harry Potter car from Chamber of Secrets. They used 17 and a half of those Ford Anglias making that movie. We've got a gyrosphere from Jurassic World over there. That's a unique vehicle to those movies. If you saw Jurassic World, you know the gyrosphere looked like a glass ball that they rolled around the park in to take their tour. But there was never glass on that thing. It always looked exactly like you saw it today while they were filming, and all the glass was made on a computer.
To Jurassic Park.
Yep, nobody does it better than him. And on your left side is a mobile laboratory from the second Jurassic Park film, The Lost World. And, what's the wrong thing? Here's a little scene they used that thing in that I'll play for you as we ride by it here, so you can see it in action. Also, there's supposed to be dinosaurs in these empty cages. Oh, here they are. Oh, no. Oh, they just got the first car good. Car 2, there's no escape. Just let it happen. Car 3, cover your beers. Car 4, you're on your own back there. We're all counting on you. Here's the scariest dinosaur on your left side. That's the Spinosaur. That's Barbara. She's friendly. Just has resting, people-eating face. It's not her fault. The very first Jurassic Park movie came out in 1993, which is starting to feel like a long time ago now. They were just going to use animatronics and models for the dinosaurs, but then they created a dinosaur on a computer, put it in the movie, and it looked incredible. And that was the beginning of the digital age. Sometimes the old ways are still the best ways, and that's what we're going to show you next. As we roll down this hill into the old Mexico part of our backlot, we're going to show you how they make it rain in TV shows and movies. Alright, we made it. That's good. We got stuck on that hill last night. We were there for a long time. So it feels good to get through there today. I was having anxiety. Now I'm fine. We're all fine. Alright, now first thing you need to make it rain is a rain machine. And rain machines are just giant sprinklers. So you put that giant sprinkler high enough in the air that the camera can't see it. Hook it up to a water source. Usually they have big water tanker trucks. And once everything's all hooked up and ready to go, you just turn it on and then you get rain. Pretty simple. Just some water and some gravity. Most of the time, real life rain isn't always big enough to even show up on film, so movie rain is always at least twice as big as real rain, just so you can see it. And dark and stormy, maybe it's a horror movie. Bright and sunny, maybe it's a comedy. So weather effects can really help to set a mood to tell a story, but if we forget to turn these sprinklers off, well then that's when you run the risk of something like this happening. Now this flash flood was created just for the tour, and all the water gets recycled back up to the top of the hill and comes down again for the next tram, so that is the original water
Did you
from
get wet?
1968.
Not that time.
Maybe that's true. Now here's the old Mexico town square on your left side here. This has been used in movies like The Three Amigos, Nacho Libre, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the Star Trek series Picard used it as a Romulan resettlement village, and Janet Jackson made the entire Escapade video there, so if you want to check that out someday, you'll thank yourself. Now into the Old West. This is called 6 Points. And one of the first things we'll see as we turn into here, there's going to be an opera house on your left side, and you see the doors open today. It is. You're going to be able to see right inside of this one, and this is one of the few that we have that actually has an inside where you can film scenes. Quentin Tarantino used that in his last movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. There were some big scenes in the opera house with Leonardo DiCaprio and Timothy Olyphant. In fact, you get to see a lot of 6 Points in that movie, so if you haven't seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and you're old enough to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, check it out. They call this area 6 Points because it was originally 6 of these old western towns that met together in the middle of the street back there, and they used to be able to make 6 westerns at the same time back in the old silent film days. They made almost 200 of them the first year the studio was open. Of course, movies were like 7 to 10 minutes long back then, and sound didn't matter, so you could really crank them out. Here's a little lake on your left side now. It's got a couple of nice water fountains, and roughly 12 mostly friendly ducks live there. That is Park Lake. That was the Mississippi River back in the 1930s for a big musical called Showboat. And then the legendary actor Paul Robeson sang Old Man River over there for that movie. But then it was the Amazon River in the 1950s for a monster movie that Universal made that I'll pop up on your screens. Here's what the lake looked like in 1954 for Creature from the Black Lagoon. Then it got to be the Pacific Ocean in the 1960s for a television show called McHale's Navy that your grandpa probably watched. And for many years that lake was part of our tour. It was the Red Sea. The water used to part and our tram would ride through the Red Sea over there. So that little lake gets the nickname of Hollywood's Ocean because of all the bodies of water it's played through the years. It is always typecast as water, but that's just the nature of the business. I enjoy these purple flowers on the right. They're pleasant. If you ever wondered what was here before this was a movie studio, this whole place used to be a chicken farm. And when Carl Laemmle bought the land in 1914 to build the studio, he didn't get rid of the chicken farm. This was a movie studio / chicken farm all the way to the 1930s, making movies, raising chickens. In those days, you could pay $0.25, and they would let you in the studio, and you could sit in the bleachers in the Old West sets and watch them make the movies, and they gave you a box lunch of fried chicken that they raised right here at the studio. Good times were had by all, except the chickens. Go inside and see what one looks like when it's all dressed up and ready for filming. It takes the work of many people to create these environments. And this one is a subway station in San Francisco, set in the late 1980s. And once we get all the way up in here, we're going to do a little special effects demonstration for you all next. So make sure you stay seated, hang on to your things, and get ready, because as soon as this tram stops, it's going to start a rocking. There it is. That was just a taste, because here comes the big one right about now. That's probably the worst of it. Oh, wait, nope.
Think you're ready to go
If you wanted
swimming?
something to be on fire in your movie, you had to set it on fire. But real fire, real water, real smoke. So they're not totally gone away. Next up is our tribute to the 1975 blockbuster movie Jaws. Now, Jaws filmed on location in Martha's Vineyard on the Atlantic Ocean. But here to your right side, we have recreated Amity Island. Let's get in there. Oh, looks like there's a shark out there right now. How lucky are we? Oh, there is a diver out there too, but do not worry, he is trained to handle shark encounters. Observe. Okay. Well, it appears the training is not kicking in. That's fine, let's just stop here for a moment next to these gasoline barrels. If I've learned anything from video games, this is the safest place for us. Oh no, the shark is messing with the dock. Yep, it's me. I get mesmerized by the flames and forget it's coming. That shark's been trying to scare people since 1976. They added that attraction to the tour the year after Jaws came out in theaters. And that shark works way better than the real shark from Jaws ever did. The real shark from Jaws was named Bruce. They named it after Steven Spielberg's lawyer. And Spielberg was only 26 years old when he made Jaws. It was his first really big movie. And it was almost his last really big movie. Because he wanted to film it on the real Atlantic Ocean using a giant mechanical shark that was supposed to swim in the real ocean.
Did you almost get eaten?
Before it finished him. Out to be good. They had to get really creative with the filming, and you only saw the shark when it was absolutely necessary, and that turned out to be way scarier than seeing the shark all the time. That made Jaws all about the suspense, and that. But there's also a nice house over here. This one's called the Chicken Ranch. Unrelated to the stories I told earlier. This was built for a musical in 1982 starring Burt, Reynolds, and Dolly Parton. And it's another one that has an inside where you can film scenes, so they've gotten quite a bit of use out of that over the years. And, there's a little rabbit that lives under the back porch. There he is right now. That's Reginald. Scared of me right back in. Sorry, buddy. On your left, we're just getting a quick glimpse of the last few houses on our suburban neighborhood here known as Colonial St. Christina Ricci and Casper in the 90s. Nelly made a music video out there in the early 2000s. And for 8 seasons, it was Wisteria Lane for a show called Desperate Housewives. And for 1 season, a show based on the movie Animal House. That's what's on the screen there. And here's a little overview of the neighborhood at the end of the clip there. That's Colonial St. when it's all ready to go. Like there's a bright yellow Deuce coupe here at the beginning. That's from George Lucas's American Graffiti. But then we've got Dominic Toretto's Charger from Fast and Furious, an old-time police car from Public Enemies, an old piano repair truck from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? These last 3, though, are all Fast and Furious cars. Here on your right side is the Bates Motel, and on the hill behind it, the Bates House, the setting of Alfred Hitchcock's 1960 thriller, Psycho. We'll stop a moment and get a better look at it.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, it looks like Norman Bates is here, and it looks like he's, maybe that's just good customer service we're witnessing. He's helping that lady to her trunk. Or maybe we should not be seeing this. I think it's getting weird, and he sees us now, so it's probably time to go. Sorry, Norman, we didn't mean to disturb you. Clearing it. Oh, there's the knife, so it's time to go. Onward. Sorry, Norman, we'll leave you to your stuff there. Oh, no, it looks like somebody in car 4 is going down. Thank you for your sacrifice. It's been good having you on the tour. We'll remember you. Oh, they're fine. Everyone's fine. Alfred Hitchcock is considered by many to be one of the great directors of all time, and certainly a master of suspense. Hitchcock finished his career at Universal, making movies like Psycho, The Birds, and his television series, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, before retiring in 1979. And here to your left side is a nice close-up of the Bates house today.
Did you see the mother upstairs?
And that's going to lead us into the crash site set. This is from Steven Spielberg's 2005 movie, The War of the Worlds. And I know that looks like a real airplane, but it's made out of cake. That's a lie. I've just been watching that show a lot lately. That is a real airplane. It was a retired 747 that they purchased and then chopped into pieces just to film this one scene in this movie.
Listen, always your pleasure, Max, okay? Now close. Robbie, get in.
So you can see all this stuff look really great in the movie, and it's all real stuff. Filmmakers no longer build realistic sets like this as often, and that's mainly because they can create some really convincing digital backgrounds these days. But just like the practical effects, we are now entering Sullivan's Garage. And this is the part of our tour that's dedicated to the Fast and Furious films. If you're a Fast and Furious fan, you kind of know what you're in for here. But if you've never seen a Fast and Furious movie, they're all about family. About living your life a quarter mile at a time. About cars doing incredible things that cars have no business doing, but it's fun to watch them do it.
Everybody out! The FBI! Put that music on!
This is what we're doing. This is the race day after party. And the where the
Roman Pierce, FBI, don't move.
damn.
That's right, party's over.
You know how long I took to iron this shirt, man? I'm like,
You're under arrest right now.
baby, just back up a little bit. We don't work for nobody. I suggest you clear out of here, otherwise we can't guarantee your safety.
Guarantee my safety, I'm the one holding the gun.
Try to move that vehicle. It's about to get real interesting.
Okay, guys, it's showtime. Hook him up. I got the bull by the horn. Woman, don't shoot. Head for the bridge. Under construction.
And you can see the sound stages of Warner Brothers over there on the right side in Burbank, our neighbors. But to bring it on home on this side of the hill, here's a montage and a closing statement.
Alright, so we just got off of the studio tour. We had an awesome tour guide, an awesome driver, and it was a really fun tour. I loved hearing about all of the history and what they use sets for. We got to see them actually building a set that they don't know.
A mystery set.
Yeah, it's a mystery set.
Might be a Horror Nights maze, might be an actual movie set.
Yeah. Our tour guide said he had asked people and he did not know himself. But it was a lot of fun. It lived up to my expectations and definitely the highlight of the day, I would think. Definitely probably the most unique part of Universal Studio Hollywood. Don't like it?
Agreed.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah,
Definitely.
10 out of 10.